The tariff tangle, how America first put American giants last. Alright, hello there, it's me, your favorite purveyor of mildly depressing economic realities, Storyblocks Ganga. Tonight, we're diving headfirst into a topic that's as thrilling as it sounds, trade policy. Specifically those tariffs. You know, the ones that were supposed to be like a magic wand, waved over American industry to make everything strong and prosperous again? Yeah, about that. It turns out, waving that wand might have been less abracadabra and more oops, I think I just poked the bear, and also set fire to our own trousers. America, the land of opportunity, built on innovation and enterprise. But what happens when the very policies meant to protect our economy begin to unravel its foundations? We're going to look at how these protective measures, these grand pronouncements of economic nationalism, actually played out for some of the biggest, most quintessentially American companies on the planet. Think of it as an episode of Where Are They Now? But instead of former child stars, it's multinational corporations. And instead of now, it's now slightly more bewildered and financially bruised, because when you start a trade war, it's a bit like starting a food fight in a Michelin-starred restaurant. Messy, expensive, and someone's definitely going to end up with a lobster bisque in their ear. Today, we're diving deep into the unexpected consequences of President Trump's high tariffs and how they've sent shockwaves through some of America's biggest names. So buckle up, because we're about to unpack the glorious unintended consequences of trying to shield an economy by, in essence, making it more expensive for everyone to buy and sell things. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it paid off for them. Spoiler alert. For many, it was less paying off and more paying through the nose, then paying some more, and then wondering where all the money went. Let's get into it. Walmart's wallet woes, when always low prices meets always higher tariffs. Right, let's kick things off with a name so familiar it's practically a member of the family, albeit one that constantly tries to sell you a 3-pack of tube socks. Walmart. The behemoth of Bentonville, the undisputed champion of stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap. Their entire business model, the very bedrock of their empire, is built on sourcing goods at the lowest possible cost, often from, you guessed it, places like Asia. So, when tariffs on a whole host of Chinese imports came crashing down like an anvil in a Looney Tunes cartoon, you can imagine the reaction in Walmart HQ. It probably involved a lot of blinking, some frantic spreadsheet consultations, and possibly a stress-induced craving for a heavily discounted rotisserie chicken. These weren't just minor inconveniences, mind you. We're talking about a full-blown emergency mode, as they reportedly described it. Think about it, tariffs on everyday items, from electronics to clothing to those little plastic doodads you never knew you needed until you saw them in aisle 7. This wasn't a surgical strike, it was a carpet bombing of their supply chain. Motor City Mayhem, when steel tariffs put the brakes on GM and Ford. Next up, let's steer our attention. See what I did there? To the heartland of American manufacturing, the titans of the tarmac, General Motors and Ford. These aren't just companies, they're institutions, woven into the very fabric of the American dream, or at least the American commute. You'd think, if any sector was going to be coddled and protected by America First policies, it would be these guys. Well, think again. Because the tariffs on steel and aluminum, key ingredients in the automotive recipe, landed like a sledgehammer on their production lines. It was less protection and more friendly fire, if your friend is particularly bad at aiming. This wasn't just about the cost of importing a few shiny foreign sports cars that most of us can only dream of affording. No, this was far more fundamental. Chapter 3. Title: Nike's Tariff Treadmill, Just Don't Do It to Our Prices. Alright, let's pivot from the clanging metal of the auto industry to the surprisingly complex world of athletic footwear and apparel. Yes, we're talking about Nike, the swoosh. The brand that told us to just do it, which, in the face of these tariffs, probably felt more like just don't do this to us please. Because while Nike is as American as apple pie in complaining about the designated hitter rule, a vast majority of its manufacturing, particularly for those iconic sneakers and trendy sportswear, happens in Asia. And when you slap tariffs on goods coming from Asia, well, You don't need a PhD in economics to figure out what happens next. The equation is painfully simple. Tariffs on imported footwear and apparel directly translate into higher production costs for Nike. It's not like they can suddenly relocate their entire intricate global supply chain to, say, a disused warehouse in Idaho overnight. Check one, check. Chapter 4. Title: Heavy Metal Blues, Caterpillar and Harley-Davidson. Feel the tariff tremors. Now let's turn to some real symbols of American industrial might. The kind of companies whose names evoke images of raw power and good old-fashioned, domestically produced muscle Caterpillar and Harley-Davidson. These are the brands that build the machines that build America, and the motorcycles that roar with a distinctly American growl. If any companies were supposed to be the poster children for a resurgence in made-in-USA manufacturing, surely it would be these two. Yet, even these titans of industry found themselves caught in the tariff crossfire, facing immense and deeply ironic pressures. The primary culprit once again was the surge in steel and aluminum prices. For Caterpillar, which manufactures those massive yellow earth movers and construction equipment, steel isn't just a component, it's practically the lifeblood of their products. Higher steel costs mean higher production costs, which in turn makes their American-made machinery less competitive on the global stage. And Caterpillar is a massive exporter. Chapter 5. Title: The Tariff Toll. Adding up the damage and asking, was it worth it? So, after this whirlwind tour through the boardrooms and factory floors of some of America's biggest names, what's the big picture? Well, the evidence, as they say, is mounting. And frankly, it's not painting a very pretty picture. It's more like one of those abstract expressionist pieces where you're not quite sure what it is, but you know it's chaotic and probably cost a fortune. From the potentially emptier shelves at your local Walmart to the stalled production lines at GM and Ford, the impact of these tariffs has been far-reaching, and, in many cases, deeply counterproductive. It's a classic case of the operation being a success, but the patient seems to have developed some rather alarming side effects. We've seen iconic brands like Nike grappling with how to price a sneaker when the cost of making it suddenly jumps. We've witnessed the almost unbelievable spectacle of Caterpillar, a byword for American heavy manufacturing, facing squeezed margins, and Harley-Davidson, the epitome of made in the USA, actually contemplating, and in some cases enacting, plans to move production of the USA to avoid the fallout. It's a complex, interconnected web of consequences: rising prices for consumers, disrupted supply chains for businesses, and yes, despite the stated intentions, very real threats to domestic American jobs. It's like trying to untangle a string of Christmas lights in the dark, while wearing mittens, and the lights are also on fire. Outrow title: The Bottom Line Tariffs, Tribulations, and Your 2 cents. So, there you have it. A quick, and if I'm honest, slightly sobering look at how President Trump's tariffs sent some of America's corporate giants scrambling. It wasn't quite the economic renaissance some had hoped for, was it? More like an economic what on earth is happening and why is everything suddenly more expensive? From Walmart's aisles to Ford's factories, from Nike's sneakers to Harley's hogs, the story has been one of unexpected pressures, tough choices, and costs inevitably trickling down. The grand experiment in protectionism has, for many, highlighted the intricate, delicate, and often frustratingly global nature of modern commerce. Pull one lever here, and 3 other things you didn't even know were connected start to wobble over there. The aim might have been to build walls, but it seems those walls had a nasty habit of boxing in domestic players just as much, if not more, than they kept out foreign competition. It's a lesson in unintended consequences, writ large across balance sheets and price tags.